Great. So welcome to the webinar today. We will discuss about overcoming new pop-up cookie bar challenges as people are talking all about cookies and cookie bars, and those cause certain issues when it comes to user tracking. First of all, Woolman, the company who is arranging this webinar, we are the largest Shopify Plus partner in Europe. We've helped more than 300 brands, and we currently have 100 plus employees all over Europe. We are serving our customers globally and helping our plus brands to grow and scale up. We offer a great variety of services, both from very professional Shopify Plus support to Shopify apps, growth services, data services, integrations, and everything in between. Tero Junttila is here. He is our CTO, taking care of the technical side, and Tero will present today the technical perspective when it comes to cookie consent, the setup, how it should be set up, and what are the common issues. My name is Mikko Rekola. I am the head of our growth services, and our growth services help our clients to do better customer acquisition and a lot to understand data in their stores and understand the value of data. Today we will cover basic topics. First, what about choosing a cookie bar solution? How does that work for a Shopify or Shopify Plus stores? We've also marked that quite many of you have multiple stores, so we will shortly discuss about that. Then second one, how does it change? How does this change affect your customer acquisition and user tracking if you implement a proper cookie consent? What happens then? And then the risks if you don't act now. And finally, we will cover first-party and zero-party data, as they are heavily linked with this topic. And on the very bottom of this page, we will also offer you key takeaways for the future and showcase some common mistakes we've experienced with multiple major D2C brands, so that you don't fall to these same issues. And then covering a last topic is the common pitfalls if you have data in multiple sources. So how to look at all of your D2C data, that it will be rock solid and it will actually help you grow despite all of these changes and the uncertainty that is currently on the market. And if we just have the time, there will be plenty of room for questions and answers. I will repeat myself. If you have any questions, feel free to share them now in this chat window, and we will cover those questions by the end of this session. Thank you for participating. Tero Junttila, our CTO, please explain how is the process of choosing a cookie bar consent solution currently on Shopify and Shopify Plus? What to do, what to avoid, what to take into consideration?
Yes, that's a very good question, because it is not a straightforward process that many of Shopify merchants are used to do when they are solving problems with the apps, installing apps from the App Store and getting things done. But with cookie bar, cookie management solutions, you have to know a little bit more, and it's also quite technical task. So the app installation itself is not enough, and it doesn't make any site automatically GDPR compliant. And there is also a fact that not all solutions that are cookie management related in the Shopify App Store are not compliant with GDPR. There is software that are following old rules, or they are doing from other purposes than GDPR purposes. They are more like informing that sites are using cookies. So you need to know what to install. And one key rule there is that it should support or implement, the app should implement so-called Shopify's customer privacy API. And why that is important, because that customer privacy API is the way how Shopify communicates with all app developers about cookie consent. So if your cookie management solution is implementing that, and the apps that you are using, so basically they should be in sync and know if the customer has the has the consent. The setup itself usually, and I would say that should always have an expert, for example, a Shopify Plus partner implementing it, because you actually need to check everything, that all the scripts you have in your store, you need to understand also what cookies you are using, how to categorize those, and make sure that the solution is actually blocking the cookies, not that you don't have scripts that are outside, and also validate your installation so that the cookies are blocked if that's the case. And what we have learned is that we have seen implementations that are not GDPR compliant, or also some implementation where, for example, the analytics is not working because these apps are installed improperly. And what would we recommend is that there is a couple of apps in the App Store, and there's also more overall cookie management solution that can work on a multi-site environment. For example, the iSense Lab app is basically one of the best from the GDPR point of view, their cookie management app, if you look from directly from Shopify apps itself. But there's also good solutions like cookieinformation.com or a cookie bot that can be installed and can work in a multi website, multi-shop environment, but that always needs a manual care how that is installed. And everything else, like the terms and conditions point of view, what kind of information you are providing from what you are tracking is also important here.
Lovely. Thank you, Tero. If you want to ask more technical questions, feel free. There is the chat window. I will now take care of this subject and continue from a perhaps bit more commercial perspective. As typically this issue is only looked as a technical issue. I need to have my cookie bars installed. I need to have that cookie consent there, and then I'm good, right? No, you are not good. You're actually in most cases in deep trouble. The basic thing from merchants and brands perspective is that they should be aware of this change. If you implement a solution, even the best solutions on the market cause an issue. And I have tried to sort of like visualize the issue here. Within the orange big dot is your current Google Analytics setup, where you can measure almost all of your store sessions. And as you implement a such cookie consent pop-up solution, and if it's configured right, and the visitors then tell you that, no, I don't want to be followed, you end up within this mint green bubble. So you actually can track much less traffic than prior to this change. And this is now something that the merchant and the e-commerce team need to be aware of, that you will become blind to parts of your visitors, and you cannot anymore track users, especially with Google Analytics, as you have done in the past. From our perspective, this is something that should be taken into consideration. Quite many are measuring analytics just with Google Analytics and their sessions, so this will then sort of like mess up all of their targets, and to understand that you will lose some of the traffic when it comes to this setup is a big thing, which we then recommend our merchants that they should take this into consideration when looking at the whole like traffic as a major subject, so that you typically should also have some kind of tracking software there. I guess like Orange is one typical example, but overall to realize that you can't in the future rely heavily on Google Analytics data, that it will measure everything as it has done in the past. So the typical issue here is that the commerce team is all surprised by this change, that, hey, okay, I now did this change and I became legal, I follow the guidelines, but I'm not aware of this issue that I can't anymore track kind of a good chunk of these users. So this is rather risky from a commercial point of view. However, we of course Our job as Woolman, as the Europe's largest Shopify Plus partner, is to help our customers hand in hand. So we have come up with ideas and solutions how to look at this matter. If you still like talk about the risks, what are the risks that occur if you haven't implemented this kind of a setup properly, or that you have implemented this solution, but it's not working as it should, which we've seen in many cases. That if you deploy any cookie content pop-ups, and if you haven't implemented such, you are not following the policies. So of course, our basic recommendation here is to please follow those policies. Then the second sort of risk is that Google has been already contacting merchants this May, both in the UK and mainland Europe, and has told them that if you don't follow Google policies when it comes to content tracking, your Google Ads advertising will be blocked. We noticed that from our merchants that has happened like extensively past 2 weeks. So you need to have a proper like setup when it comes to the cookie content, and you have to deploy that to all of those stores that work in these current markets. Otherwise, even Google isn't happy. And then like sort of like the respect that you need to respect your merchant as a merchant, your customers, and understand that they are equal to your business. So that these days it's very important to take care of privacy matters and at the highest possible level. And this is just one part of many. And like last, as already mentioned, you can't in the future rely only on Google Analytics. You have to have other solutions. I will soon present one that we have offered our customers, but just this is a big thing, that if you are only relying on Google Analytics data, then at this point you need to sort of like wake up and consider that you need to have other solutions in place as well. The whole topic links to a broader subject, which is like first-party and zero-party data. I will super fast walk you through. So first-party data is data that you get directly from customers. If you're running Shopify or Shopify Plus solution and the setup, you automatically collect a really good quality order and customer data. What we've seen in many cases that even the merchants and the brands aren't sure or aware of all the data points they gather. So our respectful recommendation would be that please check all the data that you are currently gathering, that you are self-aware of this. It's by default in a very good format, as Shopify's checkout is standardized, and it can provide you some excellent data points that you can take into action when planning your business further. Then there is so-called zero-party data, which is like additional customer data, typically from loyalty programs such as Yotpo, Loyalty Lion, or automations such as Klaviyo. So you can get more data points such as birthdays, genders, further information about their purchase behaviors. And as both Google and Facebook are handing out less and less demographics data, our basic recommendation is that the brands should start data gathering now if you haven't done it. So you can do it both in emails and on site, typically with different kind of questionnaires, even games, and that kind of stuff. So all the data points you have from your existing customers will be more valuable in this present time, as the user tracking won't anymore be what it used to be. So you need to gather data points yourself and do analysis based on this, so that at least you understand your existing users as good as possible. And then finally, there is this kind of third-party data, which kind of the majority of D2C merchants have been relying on. It's typically from Facebook and Google. It can be about demographics, it can be about their interests and that sort of data. And as you have probably noticed, this is slightly vanishing step by step, of course, a bit like depending on the market. In the US, you still get some data points that you are not allowed to get in Europe anymore. But what we see in a greater picture, that you will get less and less third-party data, which means that you have to pay some attention to first-party and zero-party data. So even though we are talking about user tracking, the basic thing here is to look at your existing customer base. Are you doing everything that you only can with this data? Are you analyzing this data? Because this will help you in the customer acquisition, as user tracking on site won't quite be what it used to be after those third-party cookies won't anymore exist as they have done in the past. Our solution as an agency has been a solution called Alice Insights. This is something that we have developed with some of our top D2C merchants together. So it's actually a platform that is exclusively currently available for Woolman's customer. But if you are interested in this kind of a solution, feel free to reach out. What we do here is that we take data from multiple sources, we unify the data, and we make it rock solid in a easily digestible form. So we offer this kind of a BI solution where we have our own ETL, our own data warehouse, and we have done all the tracking as easy as possible, as we have noticed that the majority of merchants in these environments are really struggling with data. Data is all over the place. You have so many data sources. You have Shopify, multiple Shopify Plus stores. You have Google Analytics. You have Google Ads. You have Klaviyo. You have Yotpo. You have Loyalty Lion. Whatever your setup is, plus all the social channels, that they are really like struggling with this data, and that data becomes somewhat like fragmented. So what we can do here in our own solution is sort of like patch this data and make it as solid as possible so that you can more easily monitor what's happening. And our solution, as example, takes into consideration the changes that if you are setting up a cookie consent and people are answering that, please don't track me. So we can then like analyze also better what kind of sessions and tracking we can do based on that data that we still can track. So we have tried to help the life of our merchants there. If you have any questions regarding Alice Insights, we can definitely arrange you a demo, and I will offer you some more information. There is a website where you can book the demo by yourself. And some of you asked that would it be possible to have a physical meeting with you? Yes, definitely. We are with the team in London next Tuesday, next Thursday. So feel free. You can book a session with us, 1 hour session, or if you want, you can always book an online meeting. So feel free to reach out at any given time. Finally, offering you a checklist, what to take into consideration now when it comes to cookie consent pop-ups. What should I take into action here? So first, have you implemented a proper cookie bar setup to all of your Shopify stores that are in Europe, that are in the UK? Are you aware of this? If not, please ask for help. This is something that you should do pretty urgently. Then second one, have you prepared to follow sessions from secondary sources, not only from Google Analytics? If not, again, something that should be reacted now. And is your whole e-commerce team aware of this? As we noticed that in quite many organizations, there is just like 1 or 2 individuals who are aware of this issue, but this is definitely an issue that you should know company-wide, especially in the e-com teams. 3, is your brand be prepared that you can no longer track all the users and all the sessions and not even all of their behavior as you did in the past? So what kind of actions have you taken into place when considering this? If you need any help or assistance, again, we are more than glad to help. We have done this for dozens of merchants with very good results. And finally, do you have a single source of truth when it comes to data? So are you sort of like measuring data from single sources, or do you have a clear source where all of your key D2C data is merged into one location, where you can then easily see that if some data points aren't anymore the quality they used to be, that you can adapt your operations and still be sort of the driver of this car. And finally, the biggest of them all, that do you have a e-commerce data strategy put together? As this is something that we see in many cases, that our merchants are not aware of a data strategy, and they are more of like doing things very manually, hands-on, but they are not looking at the big picture. As example, that how much of customer data you are processing, in what systems, how should you develop more data gathering when it comes to first-party data, zero-party data. And as example, if you are also in the physical world selling, as example, with Shopify POS, how can you use that omnichannel data in your advantage? Lovely. Now it's time to Q&A. Tero, please.
Yes, we haven't got any questions so far, but feel free to ask any question now. We still have a couple of minutes that we can stay here and answer your questions.
Lovely. Tero, I would actually ask one that our merchants keep asking us a lot. And the thing there is that if I would have like multiple Shopify Plus stores, how does the setup in that scenario work?
Yeah, that's true. It's a bit more complicated, and like many of those cookie management apps in the App Store are built so that you basically need to install it to every store where you are using it. But there is more like a, let's say, heavy lifting tools that are built to manage like all the sites the company might have. It can be even something else than the e-com site, or it can work with your app or anything. But for example, services like cookieinformation.com or cookiebot are something that you can use on your site, and it can be the same solution can work on all language market specific sites, and you can basically do the setup there once. It requires a little bit more technical knowledge about how to set it up, because it's not a Shopify app, so you need most likely an expert to install it. But on the other hand, there is many other benefits. For example, there is ready-made translation for many languages that automatically detect what language customer is using in their browser, or etc. That you can benefit from. But those solutions are built from that point of view, that you can manage everything all the sites your company has. Even if you have any specific landing sites or something outside of Shopify, you can use that same solution on every site.
Lovely. Thank you, Tero. I think our time starts to be up. It was so nice to see you. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we wish you a really, really nice Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.